Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out, join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.
Good morning and welcome. You've reached the podcast, a live podcast heard around the world, Fight CPS with Bob Pace. Now, I'm on twice a day, 7 days a week. That's 14 shows. I've been doing this now for over a year. That's over 700 recorded shows, so you can look at any of my shows that you may have missed. And I'm here to help all of you fight CPS and hang on to your children or get back your children. Now, you just heard from my attorney, Vincent W. Davis. I want to give special thanks to him for all he does. He provides a lot of his free time to help you all with CPS. And he's one of the best juvenile family dependency lawyers. That's the field you're in right now. It's called dependency law that deals with family and juveniles. It's very important that your attorney has that background. It's very important. Now, Vince just talked about an upcoming podcast next Saturday, December 7th, which is the date of the tragedy of Pearl Harbor. And hopefully something good can come out of that podcast. Anyway, it'll be on at 9:30 on Saturday. And my podcast, I will work out the time that my 10 o'clock podcast, maybe move it up to 10:30. So that gives a chance for you all to hear what Mr. Davis has to said, or I can move it up to 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. Now, I'm on twice a day at 10 o'clock in the morning, typically for 1 hour Pacific Standard Time. Then the evening at 7 p.m., 1 hour Pacific Standard Time. And that's 7 days a week. There are exceptions. Right now, I'm in the midst of the Friday Night Lights, the high school football season. And my son's team is now in the finals. And it will be taking place not too far here. Okay. Good morning. Whoops, I had him here. Let me see what happened. Already had a call this morning, which is great. You can call in. I usually don't put the number up until about a half hour into the show, but I'm glad to have someone call. Let me see if I can get him back here. Okay. Let me see here. I don't know if this is the right one or not. Okay. I think it was this one here that had called in. No, I don't know. Whoever called in, please call again. I'm trying to find out the most recent call here. Messages, calls. I think it was 209. I think it was this one. Yeah, it was this one.
Hello, and thank you for your call. We're currently available to speak with you at this time. We are assisting other patrons away from our desk, or we may be currently closed. In order to help us serve you better.
I think it was probably someone calling in and the office didn't answer the call. You see, I work in that office and it seems like the buck stops here. When people call in and it's not answered, it rolls over to my number here. So I don't know. There was, I have no idea who just called in. I think it may have been just anonymous caller there. So I'll ignore that. Okay. Yesterday, I really need some help, Bob. My court-appointed attorney quit after I kept pressing him to uphold my rights to my sons. That's after he went MIA for 3 months as well. But the courts assigned me a new attorney. November 6th had court without me. On the 25th, my ex-husband put in a request for their passport since he lives in South Africa. The CPS worker went out of her way to not give me my new attorney, even the email sent to her. Oh boy. Well, I'll tell her I am live. Please call in. I'm getting some international calls now. So if you called in, please call me again. I'm live. Please call in now. One moment, please. Okay, I'm back again. I'm doing the live podcast from my home, and one of my family members, my son, had some questions asked, so I didn't want to distort that. Wow, we get a phone call right at the start of the show, and I think it was a phone call that was probably an ad or something. So I please excuse the interruption, but as I was telling you that. My show times, and I was mentioning about Friday Night Lights. A week of, not this week coming up, but the week after, there'll be like one more game, and it's either Friday or Saturday night of next week, and my show time will be altered, and I'll give you the specific dates or the times. Now on Sunday, right after Vincent's show on Saturday, and I'll give you the time on that one. Sunday, I'll be on at 8 o'clock because I go to church in the morning on Sunday. I like to go to church. I think going to church and praying to God are important parts of our life. I do believe in a God. And I don't want to get into the details, but I try to go to church every Sunday and try to listen to the sermon. Because with God, you will fight this CPS nightmare. It is a nightmare. I know that most of you that have called in and listened, it's really been a nightmare. And I feel for you. And so I'm on these 14 shows a week, and I try to leave something that will help you. I have developed 5 rules that will help you in your CPS case. And there's 4 ways you can interact with this. Okay. Good morning, Christina.
Hi, Bob. It's Crystal.
Oh, I thought it was Christina. Crystal Salazar, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm glad you called in this morning. And I was just telling people about my show times and a little bit the foo stuff. But I will take your call. You've called in before, and you might as well start at the beginning so you refresh everybody. I have Lycan from South Africa, and she has been terribly time with her case in South Africa. And so, anyway, go ahead and tell me what I can do for you, Crystal.
Okay. Okay. So let's see. October of 2023, my daughter, she's 8. Well, she's 9 now. She was interviewed at her school, but her school had put her and a male CPS worker alone together in a conference room, and that gentleman had ended up taking pictures of her bare chest. And she came home. She was really uncomfortable. I filed a complaint, and now I live in Texas, and so the process is you contact Consumer Affairs. So I did that. They sent me an apology letter that following November, and that gentleman ended up being fired, and I did confirm that he was fired because of the situation. Now, 2 months go by, and another investigation was open, and the gentleman that was the investigator on this case, he said that the allegations were just concerns. Crystal's neglecting her children. There's nothing more, nothing less. No safety plan was made. But I found out later that the gentleman that was on my investigation now actually grew up with the gentleman that got fired. And we're talking like grew up 7 hours away, like from my hometown where I live now and where this all happened. So, excuse me. And not only that, I guess they were in a motorcycle gang together. I don't have any qualms with that. It's just conflict of interest is all. And so I found out by his social media page. So I suggest to everybody, just take a look at social media pages. They're there. Utilize it if you can, to your advantage. But so that was in January that investigation started, and like I said, there was no family plan. There was no way for me to mitigate the situation. Now, they left my house for 3 months, did not return. There was no follow-up, no anything, no communication. And so we went about our lives, and April 4th, that gentleman returned, the investigator, and came back to my house and he told me that they were going to close the investigation, and he wanted to see that I had electricity, running water, food, all of that. And
can you stop there for one moment? Can you stop there for 1 second? At that time, why are you still talking to the CPS people? And why are you letting them in your home?
Well, actually, I didn't let them in my house. I stepped outside.
Right, understood.
And that was the first communication.
But you have to understand, and I just want this out to everybody. It's not your fault. I did the same thing. Let me tell you something really important out there, all your listeners. You do not talk to CPS workers at all, whether you're inside or outside. You don't let them in your home. You don't open your door. The reason being, they're fishing. They are fishing, and the people don't realize it. I did the same thing. I was so outspoken and opened up to a detective, opened up to the CPS. I ended up making my life miserable for the next, I had been fighting for 15 years with CPS, but the 3 years that they had stolen my children, they took my children illegally. And on top of that, it was really, really hard when you you talk to them living in the house. I'm only saying that because I want the listeners out there to know out there. So you went outside and talked to this. Now, this is the gentleman that's the friend of the person that got fired.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
now, what did it start though? Because before your daughter, did it start with your son being accused of molesting your daughter?
No, no. See, that's where I feel like the retaliation definitely has a strong case, because that didn't come in until after the children were removed.
Oh, I thought the original allegation was that your son had been accused of molesting your daughter, and that's why he went and took pictures of him at the school.
Nope.
So, okay, so you continue on with your, right, Crystal, please continue on. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's a real important fact. I want people to listen. That rule, it's my rule number 3. You do not talk to social workers. You don't let them in your home. You don't let them take your children. It's illegal. It's a violation of your constitutional and civil rights. Go ahead.
Yep, your 14th, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I absolutely despise, though, is the fact that here in Texas, the SPS is the agency that oversees CPS. They're in control of them, and so you can go on there and look up every form that they will serve you with from the beginning to the end of a case. And I actually came across an email. I don't know how I got it, but I'll send that to you here soon. But they are literally telling their agents or their employees, like, basically how to get away with certain things. But one of those is the fact, like, they will persecute us if we don't open the door. They tell us that we have the right not to talk. We have the right to not let them in, but then we make it harder on ourselves when we exercise that right.
Well, yeah, I agree that one moment I need to step there. The only way that they can talk to you or come into your home or take your children is through a warrant. That's something that people forget about. You have to give them permission. So if you don't give them permission, they can't do anything. If there is ongoing domestic violence, meaning if the child is in danger, the CPS worker and the police will come in the home. That's the second way. The third way is a court order warrant. It's a legal document signed by a judge, and it has to be given on the day that is working days. A lot of times they'll use false warrants from previous cases, and the dates are wrong, like they'll have it on a weekend or a holiday. The courts are never open on holidays or weekends. So it has to be a legitimate date. That's the first clue. The second clue, it has to be addressed to the party in concern. If it's addressed to somebody else, it's not your warrant. And also, it has to list what they're accusing you of. It has to list what you're accusing of. And they have to list the children they're being accused. And then furthermore, they need to put the address of where they can go and do the investigation. And then it has to further state what different things they can do. Like they can move the child, they can talk to you. All that being said, now I know that you don't know it. And the easy way to do it when you meet somebody that is a law officer or a social worker is say, with all due respect, I cannot meet or talk with you at the moment. I need my attorney present. It's my constitutional right through all legal matters to have my attorney present. And then what you do is you nicely ask them their name and set up a time and a date later. You said your attorney and you will get back to them, and you want to meet at like McDonald's or Starbucks so you record everything. If you meet at their office or at their home, then that hinders you documenting everything. Also, they tendency to exercise their muscles. They have to arrest you. If they refuse to show you a warrant or give you a warrant, then they're going to have to arrest you. And I'd rather be arrested and then have to go to them for not only a lawsuit, but for everything else they can be doing, because it's legal to arrest someone because they refuse to give up your child or talk to them. It's illegal. They have to have a warrant. And this warrant further has to be signed by a judge of the court. And the signature has got to be a wet signature. And the court clerk needs to put a hand stamp raising the signature so no one can forge it. That is your legitimate document. Now, they can get warrants pretty easy.
State seals. I was wondering about that because I've been hearing a lot about, especially in Texas, the seal has to be behind that signature or like somewhere on that paper.
Well, no, it would be actually the seal will be on the signature, and when they clamp that stamp, it raises it embosses the signature, and the signature is raised, so no one can forge it.
Okay. Yep.
And that's the document. You have to see it there. And I know that in April you didn't know, and you thought, oh, I could talk to him because they say we're going to close your case. They do that lying through their teeth. Yep. They are expert liars. Go ahead.
The thing too is they came back. Okay, so 3 months go by, they leave my children with me, right? Which then exigent circumstances, which also means pretty much imminent in a way. And I read the handbook says that if a CPS worker has to leave the children in your care and to gather more evidence against you, then imminent danger is then ruled out. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't read the handbook. So I did believe them whenever he came out 3 months later and tells me, oh, well, we're going to close your case, because then they leave for 3 weeks, didn't return, no phone calls. I did what I said I was going to do. I showed them pictures since I didn't let them in my house that had electricity, running water, food. And I mean, my daughter is sitting on her bed. Now, she was obsessed with Wonder Woman, and her room has Wonder Woman theme all over it. She's sitting on her bed. And at court, the CPS worker says he couldn't verify if that was my children's bedrooms or not.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? How? How could you? I mean, it wasn't her brother's room, obviously. I mean, I don't know. It was insane. But so I did believe that, here's 3 months and 3 weeks go by. They didn't remove my children. Now, again, the only thing that I had up until court that said told me anything of the allegations was just concerns Crystal's neglecting her children. That was it. No services to be worked, no nothing.
They didn't have a case plan? They didn't have a case plan?
No.
And you did not have a dependency hearing?
They did not try to do everything in their power to keep them with me.
Right. Hold on 1 second. I have several people in the room. I want to acknowledge them and welcome in. Besides, we have Crystal Salazar talking on the phone about her case. We have Lycan Hutzenberg from South Africa who's talking about her case, and she's been on my show every day, twice a day for the last couple days. We have Faye Manling from Richmond, Kentucky, a single mom who's been on my show forever, and she helps with the show. She had been out of foster care 5 times, and she helps out Crystal and other people. She's talked to them, and she is right now trying to get guardianship of her special needs son. Her 8-week-old baby was stolen and put into foster care. And so she's gone through a lot. She has gone through more than I think anybody I've talked to. She has been abused and molested and tortured by standing on sharp rocks. And then she'd been put into sex trafficking. Somehow she miraculously got her high school degree and her college degree in nursing, and she works as a nurse till she was disabled from all her injuries in foster care. And so right now she is trying to get her son back. But I welcome Faye, and thank you for your advice. I have a hard time adjusting the camera focus on it, so I got to work on that a little bit, Faye, but thank you. And as I say, Lisa Heiberg's been saying a lot of things in here about her case. Her case is awful. She's from South Africa. It's a little bit different than the United States, but it paralyzes everything. Yeah. And so now, now Medina.
That's where he's at right now.
Yeah, Medina, by the way, is at. She asked me, how would you get the documents? The child protection people need to show you the document, or the police need to show you the document, if it exists.
I think
if it exists.
She might be referring to what I was saying. I'm sorry about that. Here in Texas, like what I was saying, you can go on to the DFPS, they're the overseeing agency of CPS, and it says forms on the bottom left-hand page of their page, and you can see all of the forms. And in fact, it's weird because they have to order them. They have to buy those forms.
Wow. Well, one way you can do it, Medina, is you go to the court, whatever your dependency court is, and ask the court clerk. And that way she'll direct you to the records department, and they have to provide you by law. Now, you'll have to pay for them, and they're really expensive. But if you're low income, you can fill out a waiver of the fees. But you can get every court warrant, every court order, every court document. I mean, mine is 3 feet tall that I somehow kept track of. 3 feet tall. That's your yardstick of my documents that they do there. And all of it didn't cost me a dime. At that time, unfortunately, I was a low income person at the time. And so you can get it from the court, but you have to go to the court records. Now, maybe you can do it on that form online, but the problem is they'll charge you maybe $1 a page or something. And so if you want 40 documents, that's $40. So, but you can get all that. They need to. And also you can put a written request into the child protection system. Now, I don't know what it's called in Texas or other states, but whatever it is, yeah, you put in that request in writing that you request all the documents or this or that. They have to respond. You need to start up a paper trail. A lot of times I don't. I was really bad about paper. You need to document and set up a paper trail. And that way it can be used against them. So I'm telling you that, Medina, Medina is from Georgia. She's from Atlanta, Georgia, and welcome there. Okay. And then we have another comment here from Leica. She's going to fight and change CPS. She also says, God is preparing me for this. I've been seeking all life for my purpose. I think it is. So she is really, really, and Kimberly, good morning. Kimberly is Kimberly is the other Kimberly. There's two Kimberlys. There's a Kimberly Adams and a Kimberly Etchman. They're both from Illinois. And welcome, Kimberly. Now, Medina has further said, Faye Finger read number 1. Okay. That's clever. I was told that I'd have to motion the court, Lake County, Illinois. Okay, I'm sorry, Medina. I thought you were in Georgia. She's in Lake County, Illinois. And you don't have to motion any court. You put it in writing, or you can physically walk into the courtroom and ask the clerk where the records department, where you can get the information. It's the Freedom of Information Act. You're entitled to that information. It's the Freedom of Information Act. So anyway, I'm caught up. Now, Crystal, please continue your story. I'm sorry for the interruption, Crystal.
Okay. No worries. Real quickly, I think one thing that would have helped me early on is realizing that and I have done this since, making a timeline of events from the very beginning, and in that timeline, putting down everybody that I've been in contact with, their names, their contact info, and their supervisors. After I did that,
that's my rule number 2. It's called a incident time log. And the incident time log is where you start with your first line on your notebook paper, the date, the time, the location, the people you talked to. And then your second line is a summary of what the incident was about, whether it's from the police or the CPS, the principal, the school, whatever it is, you put that down. Then the third line is the outcome. And if you don't have the outcome, leave it blank until you have the outcome. And you do that for each incident in each area. And you will have, inside of a year or two, you'll have pages and pages of the incident time log. And that's good. I'm glad you're doing that, because that's one of the most important documents of anything that you can have, is that time log, because you won't remember a year from now or 2 years from now what happens. And also when you're telling your story, you use the instant time log to talk about it, because the instance includes any interaction. It could be with your children. It could be with the principal of the school, or it could be with a teacher, a counselor, or a doctor, or a CPS worker, or the policeman. It's recording it, and that is so important there. It's so important there. Okay, go on. We're now in April, I think is where we left off at. And you're talking to the second social worker. That's a man on your case.
Yeah, and so this is, again, this is 3 months, 3 weeks go by, and this is the current investigation that led to the removal. Now, so his supervisor contacted me on April 24th. She called me 10 times before 10 o'clock in the morning. Mind you, life happened, and I definitely forgot the gentleman's first name. His supervisor used a totally different first name in communicating with me. So she said that I was making it seem as though I wasn't cooperating, and I was absolutely cooperating, and more so than I should have been. But so she wanted me to come into the office and talk to her. I said no, but I could talk to her the next day with my attorney present on the phone. She agreed. That was April 25th. At 12:30, we were going to meet. And I'm going to be real honest, I didn't even have legal representation at the time, but I knew that would allow me the time needed to get legal representation, and I did. And so, the attorney, the free attorney that I was lucky to secure at the time, was in court. And so at 12:30, I knew that he wasn't going to be available. So I actually contacted the supervisor ahead of time, being respectful, letting her know, hey, this is the attorney's contact information. He's not going to be available. He will contact you when he's out of court. She did not waste a minute. Instead, she went straight to the court and got a fake warrant of removal. There was no seal. The signature of the judge was copy and pasted. It wasn't even stamped. It wasn't even from him, I don't think. The county clerk's initials were typed, and it wasn't even the same person.
Is this Texas? Is this Texas?
Yes.
And what county of Texas is this?
I'm in Randall County, up in the Texas Panhandle.
That's near what city? Randall County.
I'm Amarillo.
Amarillo. Okay, Amarillo, Texas. All right. And they're that corrupt that they would forge.
Oh, yeah.
Have you shown that document? Have you shown that document to your attorney?
I have. In fact, 3 attorneys, because I hired 2. I spent $10,000. I had an inheritance right around the time, spent $10,000. They did nothing. My court appointed, in fact, I told him, and he said, well, I don't know how to undo everything that's been done.
Well.
And I said, well, here's the way to do it. I showed him the way that, upon research and everything in the laws and what is available to somebody that has had their rights taken illegally and their children taken illegally. And he didn't do a dang thing. Instead, he didn't contact me for 3 months. And now, and this is part of my update that I'll get to eventually, but he took himself off my case, saying that he switched to law firms and it was going to be a conflict of interest.
Now, here's a question. Are of all these 3 attorneys, are any of them dependency lawyers?
What does that mean?
Okay. I've said from the very beginning, and I've been saying this for a year, that the law that you're in is called dependency law. If you look it up, it'll tell you what dependency law is. It's got to deal with family and children. And what it is, it's the law that CPS uses, the Child Protection System uses. Okay. It's not criminal. It's not immigration law. It's not real estate law. It's not workman's comp law. It's not divorce law. Yeah. It's a specialized family juvenile dependency law. It's the dependent of a minor. You see, you have somebody under the age of 18, and the agency uses that dependency law to traffic children, to steal children, to alienate children. And I'm saying those words harshly because 99% of the people I talk on here, and I'm talking over 600 people, have said that their children were illegally taken. Mine were taken too illegally. And so it's the dependency law, and you have to know it. So the first thing you do before you give a dime to an attorney is you ask them, you ask the law firm, I guess, who you contact first, and then hopefully you talk to the attorney, but you ask them, do they have an attorney with dependency, family, juvenile law background, and have they fought CPS? And if the answer is yes, the second question is further, has that attorney filed civil lawsuits against CPS and won cases? If the answer again is yes, then you've located the pit bull of attorney. That's what Mr. Davis is. Mr. Davis has been doing that for 35 years. He is also a trial attorney. He knows how to do trials. And so he's also that. And you talking on this show, by the way, I have a new program. Anybody that talks my show, either through as a guest or on the phone, gets a free 15-minute consultation with Mr. Davis. Have you spoke to Mr. Davis before? Oh, wow. Have you spoke to him before?
Not yet. No, sir.
All right. You are going to, if you want, you are going to text me your full name, your email, and your phone number, and I'll set you up to have a free 15-minute consultation. I have a lady that called on here that did that. And not only did he talk 15 minutes, he talked longer than 15 minutes. So I'm trying to tell you, he listens to your case and he will hear what you have to say and he will help you. I know you probably can't afford him, but at least you can ask about his retainer and what it would take to come to Texas. He's fighting a case right now in Oklahoma. He's fighting one in Oklahoma. And he fights in Northern California, and he's from Arcadia as his office, but he has cases in Orange County, LA County, and Riverside County, and he does help out people. He has that podcast on Saturdays too. I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry. Do you know if he does contingency? And then the reason why I ask is because now my case, I went up the chain of command. I did everything, and I'm excited to tell you all the way that I did it so that hopefully it could help somebody. But my case has now been received at a federal level through HHS. And now I know Mr. Davis has mentioned this before as a way to hopefully get your
That's you and between Mr. Davis. That's you and me and Mr. Davis. Okay. And so I can't answer that question. And so here's the thing is, you cannot sue CPS until your case is closed. You need a letter from the Child Protection Services, system, whatever it's called there in Texas. You need that letter that says your case is closed. Once it's closed, then you can file a lawsuit, and you can do it like on perjury. I had a case where I could do it on perjury, but I couldn't afford the retainer to sue CPS. I had a solid case. Not only that, my constitutional rights and the civil rights were violated. I have so many things that could make someone a very wealthy person if they take on my case. And so it was really sad that I couldn't.
Well, I'm wondering because I read here recently that, especially because of the Chevron Act being overturned, and now I know that they're going to have to figure out how to implement all of that. But to my understanding, to my understanding of things in Texas, I was told that they being the federal government, obviously, they can't overturn a decision, which I'm not asking them to do. But once a decision has been made, because they're trying to terminate my rights, and that it won't be undone. Like, it can't be undone, even if
you can do an appeal. So, by the way, if you only have 30 days or 15, I don't know what it is in Texas, to make an appeal if they've terminated your rights. Now, have they terminated your rights yet?
Not yet. No,
Okay.
we have the permit. I guess the last hearing is going to be in January.
Right.
But
Right.
they had court. This is what I was going to ask you, was because I now have a new court appointed that I did not know about. I found out by researching my case. CPS didn't tell me. In fact, the CPS worker went out of her way and emailed to tell me she was going to blind email the new attorneys on my case. For some reason, I don't know why she was trying to deprive me of that right.
What you can do, you should go to the courthouse and speak to the public defender's office, the court-appointed office defender, and you can fire them. You can fire them. You need to either be representing yourself or have an attorney of record. And you need your new attorney, whoever that might be, to turn in for attorney of record. They are trying to manipulate the system. They're trying to work you over.
Yeah,
and I'm not an attorney. I'm not an attorney, but I've been through this for 15 years. And I've spoken enough. I've followed Mr. Davis, and I know what they can do and not do. And one thing is, they cannot force you on a court-appointed attorney. You can fire them. And one way some people are doing is they're fighting themselves. I have KK Richardson in New York, Brooklyn, New York, who got a degree in dependency law. She's a lawyer, and she's trying to fight, and she's doing it. She's got them against the rope because she's pushing the records, something that you need to do too.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you to get a degree as an attorney, but you need to be very careful with the questions you ask. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I actually am going to be starting school, starting law school in January. I'm stopping here in Texas. I was actually in foster care system myself.
Hold your phone closer to your mouth. I can't hear you. Yeah.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
I'm sorry. I said I'm actually going to be starting law school myself coming January. I was adopted here in Texas, which I get a free education the rest of my life, thankfully. I was actually in foster care, so I do know that. Right.
Oh, you got one other stigma against you. For all your listeners out there, people that are once in foster care, CPS will come back to haunt you when you have your own children. It's so sad. I've talked to people with third generation foster care, meaning they were in foster care, they had children, and then their children were in foster care, and then the third generation started having children. CPS keeps a record. Not only do you close your case, you got to be removed from their system. You got to legally get yourself removed because they'll come back to haunt you. The reason why you're even being involved is that they get a record on you as a foster child. I don't know what happened to you as a foster child, but when you're a foster child for life, they will keep a record on you. And that's what they did to Faye Manley in Richmond, Kentucky. They do things illegally. They're not afraid to lie to you. They're not afraid to lead you on. They're the greatest people to bring your hopes high and then drop you. They really do. They are.
And just because you work with services doesn't mean you're going to get them back necessarily either. I mean, I hate to say that. I hate to be a buzzkill, but there are a lot of instances where people work the services, and that's what I've been doing, is advocating full time for other people now. And I can't tell you how many times people tell me, well, Crystal, I've been doing what they tell me to, and I'm not getting anywhere, or then they come in and they still terminate their rights.
Yeah, and Faye just wanted to point out something really important, and I need to check on that because I know in California, but in Richmond, Kentucky, or maybe other states, she says you cannot get your records expunged from foster care. And I don't know. I would think that you would have to go to Washington, D.C. to maybe do it. Right now, we have a new president that's shaking everything up. And I think one of the areas that it will shake up is CPS. And I'd love to take on CPS and change it. We do need CPS. I'm not saying we don't, but we do need CPS. We do need CPS. So
I think there needs to be more oversight, like kind of a watchdog, if you will, that mitigates.
Faye is now saying not other states. Faye's is saying not in other states. And I'll take Faye's work because she's an expert research person. And so she says other states not like that. So if that's true, Faye, I'll take your word for it. Thank you for correcting me, Faye. I was told that you can get your records cleaned up just like your criminal record. If, for instance, if you were convicted, and even if you serve time in prison, that you certain offenses you can get stricken off your record, but maybe not in foster care. I don't know why they want to keep the foster care records, because in the end, that would screw the CPS agency, because when they're called and when they are legally sued, I think right now is that there's got to be a national lawsuit by all the families that have lost their children to CPS through wrong reasons, and should be a massive lawsuit done at the federal level with the federal judges seeing the case. And it's like, it's something that needs to be done because it is corrupt. It is corrupt.
I know here in Texas, there is Judge Janice Jack that was, for 13 years, she has been working this case for foster care children. And one of the things that she was tackling was the fact that CPS is putting children on psychotropic medication. And that was one thing she was fighting. Well, here recently, like within the last 2 months, Texas went in and they removed her off the case. And on top of that, Judge Janice Jack, she was charging the department $100,000 a day since April for being in non-compliance.
Wow.
And now granted, they'll never see probably any of that money. I don't think so. But Cecile Young is the commissioner. I don't know if she's still the commissioner with the FPS, but she, to my understanding, Judge Janice Jack was charging her department or what have you $100,000 a day, and it's still continuing until they bring the agency into compliance. So that, to me, I'm wondering, how is it that CPS then is still able to make these rules and determinations based off these rules that they're breaking that are putting them into the non-compliance status? Without, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The problem being, and maybe Vincent's the man that would lead it, I don't know. But we need an attorney. We need more than one. We need a bunch of attorneys that can make anything happen. All you have to see, and I'm sorry if my eyes look like they're closed, I have lag. And it's like when I blink my eyes, they stay shut. So I am wide awake here, but my lag this morning is really bad. I need to have my computer cleaned, and I can't clean it because I'll lose my connection to my SteamYard. And so, my register, there's a lot of problems with my computer. But anyway, I do apologize if I look like I'm slouching or my body's going in and out, but I'm doing the best I can. Faye has responded about the psychotropic drugs. And she says her kid was on 8 psychotropic drugs. And the sad part about it is that the drug thing that CPS does, they do not, they are not a doctor, but they think they can prescribe drugs. They're not clinical psychiatrists. They need to be a doctor to prescribe drugs. And somehow they've taken on where they talk to somebody that is a clinical psychiatrist, but they're using drugs all the time. They want to say parents are crazy, that they're mentally hurt. We have a long-time participant here. Her name is Natalie. She's from West Hollywood, California. And the night that she was arrested, they said that she was a crazy person. And for 72 hours, they locked her up to see if she was, and they found that she wasn't. Meanwhile, her kids were taken into CPS and put into foster care right away. And that was all based on some sheriff making that statement that the person's crazy. She had shown a letter of a person that wrote a crazy letter, and they thought that was her. This is how bad the government people are. And I'm calling the people at the state level and at the federal level, government people. Your police are supposed to protect and serve. They do not protect and they do not serve. There are bad police out there. Not all police are bad. I'm not saying that. We do not need to get rid of police. Same thing with CPS. We do not need to get rid of CPS. There are kids dying all the time. A week ago, a little 5-year-old child in the state of Kansas died because she was raped by a 25-year-old man, went for help, lived in a forced home of people, but she died of malnutrition and better health and cold temperatures. And she's no longer alive. So we do need an agency that protects her children, because 1,000 children per day are gone unreported. And I don't know how many day children are taken in, but we have over 400,000 children right now that are being investigated. The statistics, if you want to look at statistics of CPS, it is terrible. It is terrible.
It doesn't even out. I mean, I know here in Texas, they're putting children in hotel rooms because they're overran. The foster care systems don't have enough room, so they're putting them in hotel rooms.
Yep. I have a question for you from Medina. Medina says, Crystal, did you file a complaint with HSS? And if you did they do anything about it?
Okay. Yes, but let me, I'm going to tell you how I did it, that I have found that has worked. And you have to do the chain of command. So you would do a complaint with the CPS supervisor, and you don't have, there doesn't have to be a time frame in between each complaint. You can do it all in one day if you want to. There just has to be that paper trail, okay? So start with the CPS supervisor. Then it would be the regional director of, within your state. And then I did it at the state level. I did a complaint, and here in Texas, that's HHSC, and they're the ones that control CPS at my state level. Now, I had to file 2 complaints, and I did that actually within 30 days because they did investigate and found in their, I guess, opinion, nothing was, my civil rights weren't being violated, but the lady did tell me she was going to advise me to go ahead and take it to the federal level. Now, that was a state level employee that was investigating. And so I went ahead and just minded my P's and Q's and filed another one at the state level, and that was with HHSC here in Texas. I'm sorry, that was within the civil rights. But Texas has consumer affairs. They're the ones that you would make the formal complaint to. I don't know what it would be elsewhere. I would imagine that there's an overseeing agency to make those complaints to. And every time I did get an apology letter and was told that they investigated, that there was discrepancies within my case, which has helped, I think. But now, and then from there, I was able to go file the civil rights complaint within HHSC in Texas. But now what I have done is I went to HHS, the federal side of things, and told them, look, my state, they're not doing anything. And in fact, they told me that my next step is to reach out to you. And so I did. And I got a response within 15 days and said, we're going to investigate. Now, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to make it to where I can open and file charges or anything like that. That's going to be, to my understanding, I'll have to go down to the federal courthouse and file paperwork like that. But since they do oversee the federal side of health and human services issues, if you will, so far it's been a fairly pleasant experience. I had to turn in all my documentation, and but the holidays came up, so now I'm just kind of waiting, I guess. I will point out in my research, the one thing that I have found is that a lot of times when people complain to HHS at the federal level, they forget to incorporate which rights of theirs are being violated at the federal level and bring in state level issues which they won't touch. So you need to make sure that whenever you're making your complaint that it is in the guidelines that they can investigate. And so leave the state level stuff at the state level and then leave federal level at the federal level, because they won't cross paths. And that's just from my personal experience right now. So I'm hopeful, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Crystal, can you finish off when that guy was coming out and you talked to him? Where did it go from there?
Okay, so from there, 3 weeks went by. I was talking to his supervisor. She knew I had an attorney that was going to help me talk to her on that day, April 25th. Instead of waiting, she got a fake court order, and they came and removed my children. And they came with the police officers. There's 3 police cars. 3 CPS workers came to my house and removed my children. Now, the warrant, and I'm saying that as I do air quotation marks, was an emergency order extending prior orders. And at the time, I wish I had actually, read the paperwork. I did in that moment ask for them to not take my children yet, that I wanted to call my attorney and for my attorney to be present on the phone. And at the same time, all 6 people that were standing on my front yard told me no, that I was not going to be talking to my attorney. And, so anyways, a couple of things that I wish I knew at that time is what a warrant of removal looks like, the verbiage in it, and also I wish I kept an eye on the stamped time, because here recently, going back over my paperwork, I realized that they didn't even have the right to come remove them based on the time frame in which the time stamped was, because there technically should have been 3 documents that I should have been handed over, and instead I was only handed 1. Well, not until the adversary hearing that I had in May did they submit the rest of the paperwork that would have been handed to me typically. And that's because they didn't file that until after the children were already removed. And that would have been the paperwork to actually give them permission from the courts to come and remove them. So they didn't even have the jurisdiction to remove my children at the time. But
wow.
So just always verify your paperwork.
Now, didn't they reverse? When did they accuse your son of molesting your daughter? When did they accuse him?
Okay, yeah. So 24 hours later, that same day though of removal, April 25th, they split my children up. They sent my son to Houston, 10 hours away, and then put my daughter in a foster home here in Amarillo. 24 hours later, though, they sent my daughter to an advocacy center here. And so, mind you, the allegations of my son and the abuse, the alleged abuse that my son did to my daughter was not in the original petition to the courts. Any concerns whatsoever wasn't even mentioned until they illegally had an interview with my daughter. Her ad litem attorney wasn't present. I didn't even know this happened until May 5th. So this was April 26th that the interview happened.
They're supposed to let you know that your daughter is being, the school is supposed to inform the parent to come to the school. They have the option to come and sit in a separate room while your daughter is being interrogated. But it's supposed to be more than one person. Never, ever people want to interview somebody alone, because things that could be said will be used against them. So they're supposed to work in tandems of two, and so they made a mistake there. But they should have informed you. I'm saying to all my listeners out there. Yeah, go ahead.
They interviewed my daughter, and this is a verbal, interview, with a forensic interview.
Okay.
Now, thank you, Faye, because Faye introduced me to the number one, I believe, forensic investigator in the state, Dean Tongs. He's amazing. I have gotten to talk to him a couple of times, but they being CPS, interviewed my daughter at an advocacy center. So it wasn't at school, but they did have the forensic medical exam nurse. She was certified, but my daughter did not leave from her doctor's office or a hospital. I really don't understand within the guidelines and stuff that they follow where it was appropriate for my daughter to meet at that place 24 hours later, because the outcry against her brother wasn't made until she was in that room. And my son is 10 hours away, okay? And so at point, the police department, I guess, decided that my son was guilty. They themselves, I don't know. Am I allowed to say the detective's name? I don't get in trouble.
Well, for purposes,
anyway.
I would use the first. Just say detective in Texas detective. Just say that.
Okay, the detective. Okay. Anyways, so he admitted at the adversary hearing, which goes against my son's due process rights, because he wasn't having his own trial before a judge or jury. This was at the adversary hearing, the first hearing in which CPS is telling the judge why they need to keep my children, right? So, but at that hearing, the Texas judge went ahead and decided to move my son to a sexual rehabilitation center based off of the detective. While he was on the stand, he was asked, certain questions about my daughter's interview, and the detective admitted he had not interviewed either one of them. He had not watched or listened to the interview that my daughter had made, in which supposedly these claims against her brother, who's 13, had made. And I don't think he had actually seen the notes from the nurse. So everything that the detective was going off of was based off the CPS workers' notes.
Okay.
And
I'm not trying. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, and I really don't want to stop, but I've gone well over my time. It's already 7 minutes after 11, and I need to end the podcast. But I'd like to invite you tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to continue this discussion. And you can start off at the part there, because to wrap up your story is that now you're being accused of doing something to your daughter, and your son is still in jail. Has he been in jail all this time?
Son.
Yeah. Okay.
Since May.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, since May.
So yeah, there's a really serious.
Yeah.
So please call in again. Also, on this number that you called me in, the number you called me in, please text me your full name, your email, and your phone number. And that way I'll get you a free 15-minute private Zoom meeting with Mr. Davis.
Okay, thank you so much.
And you can ask him really important questions there. Yeah, and thank you. I want to thank all our people right now. We have Medina. Thank you very much for calling in. And we have Faye Manley, who has given a lot of answers to questions. Thank you, Faye, from Richmond, Kentucky. And then I want to thank the lady from South Africa, Leica Hartzenberg, who has been sharing her story these last couple of days. I invite all of you tonight to come back.
I would like to connect with her if possible.
Yeah. Well, anyway, she's going to get on the phone. She's saving her money because it costs money to go from South Africa to the U.S. But she's going to be my first caller that has come in there. So anyway, I got to end it. It's going to end with a message from my attorney, Mr. Davis. And you can watch that. And that's the guy you're going to talk to if you give me that information. So thank you again, Crystal Salazar.
Thank you.
And God bless all of you. Do not stop fighting for your kids. Keep fighting for them. And I hope and pray they'll return to you on that one. So this is Bob Pace signing off.
Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out. Join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.